Welcome everyone to Chasing Tents. My name is Abhi. Thank you very much for joining me to this new episode, which is all about a track guide to Donington Park Track Day. Now you will see all my bikes in the background. I've been doing a lot of videos yesterday, day before and early this morning about various things, upgrades, tires and all sorts. So you've got to excuse that. Now this video is a training guide or a track guide in detail with Taylor Mackenzie, who is a ex-BSB rider, British Superbikes, British Superstock. I mean, the chap is very, very talented, and he also managed a Moto3 team. It's just brilliant. I think his brother is now in World Superbikes, and his dad was in MotoGP as well. So it's a family full of talent. I proactively contacted him after I saw a video of him showcasing his track guide. So not only I got the track guides from him, I'm sure you guys can still go on his website or on his kind of social media links and still get those track guides. And then I told him, I said, why don't we do a kind of video track guide, a detailed one. My track, my lap time and the actual lap is from 2019. I've not done Donington Park as much, and when I was doing my endurance racing, I think it was still around 142, 141, something around it. So let me play this video. It is a long one, but this will be very handy for you. A lot of people go to Donington Park, and hopefully this track guide helps not only me, which it has helped, but you as well. I haven't been back on the track for 2.5 years on my lovely Aprilia, but I will be going back soon and using all these teachings from Taylor Mackenzie. You won't see me again now in this video, but hope you enjoy this and hope this is helpful for you.
Okay, so the second onboard lap, this is Donington Park now, and I'm going to talk you through your lap on your Aprilia RSV4. Okay, so first things, I don't know if that's drizzle or perhaps some fuel or your radiator is leaking, but I'm going to assume it's nothing serious. So, first things first, I think you can hold on to the RPM a little bit more, because I've seen in some of your other videos, as we mentioned before, that your shift lights go all the way to the end. So if they do, I think that's perhaps indicating that you can rev your bike a little bit harder. That's just free speed on the straight that you can gain. So your braking into turn one's really good, really wide and late, so good. I tried to use the very end of pit lane, you can see where it ends there, that dash line, as a turning in point. The further down there you go, the more you open the corner up and you can effectively brake harder upright for longer. So I think because you didn't hang out quite as wide there, you've probably turned in a little bit too early, and what that means is you then can't brake as hard. You're at this point having to release the brake, and you're not scrubbing off as much speed as you could had you have stayed out wider for longer. At this point now, I think you're running past the apex. So if you'd waited a little bit longer, held it out wider, braked upright, and then turned in, you'd have had a later apex, which means you can accelerate better out of here. At this point, you're now running past the apex, and you're going to miss the point where you can accelerate as hard. So here, you're only just accelerating at this point, when really at this point I'd like you to be at the inside curb as much as you could, have your wheels on the white line, and at that point there is where you can stand the bike up and start accelerating. Because you've run past the apex now, we're running wide, and you're now on the side of the tyre, you can't open the throttle, and you're going to cost yourself speed through a long section, because pretty much from here all the way to McLean's at the top of the hill at the other side is all one big flowing section, and if you don't have your speed here, you're going to struggle to get it back for the rest of the section. So you're only just at the point now where we're accelerating, and we've kind of lost the momentum of the bike. What also happens at this point is you then pick the bike up and get onto the fat part of the tyre. If you start accelerating at the apex of the corner, you keep the bike leant over, and little by little, as you're accelerating, it's really kind on the engine, and it will help the engine accelerate when you're on the side of the tyre. Excuse my physics lesson here, because I don't understand how this works. People watching this video will know how it works. But in my small motorcycle racer brain, when it's leant over on its side, it'll accelerate faster. The second you get on the big fat part of the tyre, if you do that aggressively and put it on the big fat part in one go, it accelerates slower. So you want to gradually pick the bike up. It's to do with the gearing and things like that. You don't need to know how that works. You just need to know when it's on its side, it'll accelerate faster. When it's upright, it accelerates slower. The more you can minimise you just lumping it onto the big central part of the tyre, the better. So try and just gradually, you'll have to take it off the edge of the tyre initially, but then I'm trying to be smooth at that point. What you've done here is kept the bike leant over, ran wide, got to the edge of the track, then picked the bike up, and at the same point accelerated. And at that point, the gearing's effectively longer, it'll go slower, and you'll lose even more speed at that point. That first shift was far too early. You can really accelerate more out of there. People do short shift at this point, but it's further down. It's more when we start turning right again at the top of Hollywood. So my gear pattern on a BMW S1000, it might be different for you, is to be second or third at turn one, and then I go third, fourth, and hold it in fourth, or you can go fourth, fifth. If I hold it in fourth, I'm at the rev limiter in fourth gear on my Superstock bike the whole way round this right-hander. Well, I'll talk a little bit further on as we get round here. It's just to give you an idea of how much faster you can be going at this top part, as that guy is just showing you here. So his line is actually where I would want you to be. Because you're running wide now and you're missing that part, which might be because he's come past you. It's difficult sometimes when people pass you like that. But if your wheels, he's a little bit wide, but ideally you want your wheels on that white line. There's a patch of dirt on the inside just where he's, if I rewind the video slightly, where he is now, where this curve finishes, there's some dirt. Try to have your wheels as close to that dirt as you can. And that is also the point. If I compare your body position on the right hand side in your other camera compared to his, we can see a difference. So he's leant over on the right hand side. At this point, he's now changing direction, so he's actually ahead of the bike. And because he's ahead of the bike, he can start turning and going left. Because you're wide and you're not where he is, you can't start turning yet because you need to finish going right before you can start going left. So you can see now he's turning left effectively because his bum is off the left hand side of the bike. You're still hanging off the right to finish turning right. I've realised these cameras are a little bit out of sync. But where he was, we'll just go back to where he was at this point, where he's in the middle of the bike and then on the left hand side. If I compare that on the right hand side to you, not only are you away from the curb, you're not turning, we're in the middle of the bike now, we're still not turning left. Now you're in the middle of the bike, but you're still not actually turning left until you're at the apex, and you're actually, if I'm being really critical, not hanging off enough on the left hand side. So if I rewind and we look at your body position here on the right, you can see the middle of your bum is off the edge of the seat. If I scroll through to this point here, there was a long time where your bum is just in the middle of the seat, and that will also hinder you. You won't be able to turn left. And that is also the reason a lot of people crash at Craner curves, because they're not hanging off fully on the left. As you start going down this dip, and I'm going to show you exactly how not to crash here, as you start going down this dip, if you're not hanging off properly, the front unloads and you're not in a position to ever save it or correct it because you're sat on the middle of the bike. It'd be like going around a normal corner and just being sat on the middle of the bike. You've got no real control or control if it starts going wrong to stop yourself crashing. So if you compare to him, he's turning left, and then now as he's going left, you can start accelerating from where he is now through that corner. You're accelerating good, but you're actually at a much higher risk of crashing. And this is another reason people crash on track days, because someone will pass you exactly like he has. You'll try to chase him, and at this point you're chasing him from a completely different angle. If you look at his angle of where he started, his bike's not actually leant over. He's off the side of the tyre. It's only now he's on the side of the tyre as he's getting to the apex, but he's already gone past the dangerous point where it unloads the front. You're now accelerating down the dip without your bum really being off the seat, and that can be the point where it catches people out. So it's easy for me to say you need to go faster at this point. If I'm looking at your speed, you're doing 155, 157 kilometers an hour. At this point here on the BSB speed traps, so you're roughly doing 100 mile an hour. We do about 126, 130 mile an hour. So you've got 30 mile an hour difference in speed that you need to try to find. Obviously you're not riding the British Superbike, and I wouldn't expect you to be doing the exact same speed, but there's a big window there of speed to find. So the way you find that is by being tighter to the curb on the inside here, on the right hand side. That'll open up this corner more, and then it will mean you can accelerate harder with the bike slightly off the edge of the tyre through the left hand side, and you'll not only be faster, but you'll be far safer and have less risk of crashing. And then you're accelerating nicely through there, you're good. You're nice and tight to the inside. We'll see how much track you use on the way out. And that's a good amount of track to use. I don't know if you have noticed or you do know, but the track 3/4 of the way along at Donington sort of does this, and then the last quarter does that. If you end up on that last quarter, sometimes it can be hard to get yourself back over to the side of the track to set up Schwantz curve. So really try and have your wheels sort of 3/4 of the way across. Then here is a really important part of the track. You've gone back to second there. I would imagine you could potentially do that in third if you carried a little bit more speed through, and then, or if it is second gear, I would come out of here and go third and try and drive third for as long as you can, and then short shift fourth before you go left through Schwantz. So I think you could potentially go a gear higher. So if I was you, I'd come out here in second, accelerate harder in second, you're using enough track, go third, and then click fourth at this point here, and then you'll be able to carry more speed through there. Because you're quite high in the RPM, the bike's not really accelerating at this point. And now you've shifted, so definitely, yeah, you've shifted fourth at this point. So short shift fourth before the left, it will carry more speed through the left. It will be smoother. You will have more torque, so it could potentially spin more, and just be ready for that. But short shift fourth through this left, and you'll carry more speed up. And it means once you're up and out the other side, you've got less to think about. You don't need to change gear. You don't need to move your foot. You can just think about accelerating. You can also use more of the track there, get yourself over to the white line on the right hand side, and and that'll open up this left-hander more. It's difficult here because Dean's past you. Now, you were third at McLean's and second at Coppice. Normally, your gears would be the same at the old hairpin, McLean's and Coppice. So, if you're doing the old hairpin in second, I would imagine that McLean's would also be second, and this corner, Coppice, would also be second. But equally, if you could do them in third, then I would imagine normally they would all be third. Second sounds right here. So I would click another gear at this point, short shift to third. I would also run out a little bit wider, and if you run out a little bit wider, this first curb that comes up here in the middle of the corner, you can then be upright and start accelerating really hard. Because you've come a little bit tight, we're still on the side of the tyre, and I think looking at your body position, you could probably hang off a little bit more as well, and that'll allow you to get away from the bike and stand the bike up more. So because you were in a little bit tight, can you see where Dean is in front? He's using more of the track, and because you can actually see where he's standing his bike up now. Because you're tighter, you can't stand the bike up, because if you stood the bike up, you'd miss the corner. So you're having to keep turning, but because Dean's upright, he can then accelerate at that point. And now that's where he's able to gain loads of time on you, because he's upright and driving hard. And he's also lining himself up better with the straight. If you think about the angle you're at now, you're at this angle and the track is going, it's not very easy to see. The track is going right effectively and you're going left. So you need to be opening the corner up more so you can accelerate harder down this straight. And then that way you wouldn't have ended up on the curb and rolled out of the throttle. Quick tip to stop yourself wheeling over the lump in the straight at Donington is to stay down the left hand side of the track as you exit Coppice. As you approach the dip, turn over the dip, and as you turn over the dip, it will sort of scrub it like a motocross bike, and as it scrubs it, it will stop it wheeling as much, and it means you can accelerate harder going over it. I use the start of the curb on the right hand side as my braking marker into there, so you know that you've got that extra space to deal with. I think our bikes are also sort of nearly 150, 160 mile an hour down there. I think you're at 135 mile an hour. So there's probably 20 mile an hour faster we're going, and we're braking later to there. So you've got a good safety margin in the amount you can brake going in there. Where your bike's juddering now is because you're back shifting too early. So try and space your shifts out more and leave them as late as possible. You can, in an ideal world, from your first shift to the corner, you've got this much time. You could do the shifts equally all the way to the apex. At the minute, you've sort of done two really fast, too fast for the engine speed and the rear wheel speed, and that's why it's juddering, trying to get it into gear. Now here, I feel like there was a big bit of you coasting where you're not really braking that hard and you're not really slowing down that much, and that came from not braking late enough initially. So really try and brake as late as you can into there, and that'll carry your speed all the way to this first apex. And again, a lot of racers cut that first curb. It's tricky to do, so don't worry if you don't want to do that, but 100% you need to cut this second curb, and that will save you so much time. You can see on the rear facing camera that you're not cutting this inside curb. If you don't cut that inside curb, basically you just make the exit so much tighter. So cut that inside curb, but the way to do it is go through the left, and then the second you go through the left, you pick the bike up, you get yourself upright, and you make sure your wheels are completely upright as you're going over that second curb. And it's almost like a shortcut if you're doing that, as opposed to keeping the bike leant over, going around the right-hander. What you then do is you go upright over that curb where it's bumpy, and then you start turning a lot later on in the corner. So you'll start turning towards the edge of the track. But at that point, you're already sort of past the dangerous point, the tricky part of accelerating. The bike's up and going, and it's easier to control it. When you go don't cut any of the curbs at the chicane. It makes it really tight. It goes from being a really hard left-hander to a really hard right-hander, and you can't accelerate the whole way through it. Really, you should go through the left, which is a corner, and then not even think about the right, just go upright and just ignore it, go upright over the curb, and then let yourself drift out, and really rev your bike out of here. Use all the power till you get to the next Melbourne loop. As another point there, you can hear your bike, because you're changing gear at the point where you go completely upright. You can hear the bike labouring. If you tried to change gear more, just a little bit on the side of the tyre, you would keep the bike accelerating faster. And I think you can use more of third gear. Either hold third gear and just get on the rev limiter, or if you're carrying more speed from the chicane, you would go second, third, fourth, and you would use more of fourth gear. It's almost not necessary. The amount of time you're in fourth gear there, it's sort of, you're taking time by shifting the gear. So if you came through here faster, you would use more of fourth gear earlier. You brake really late in there, that's really good. You can use a little bit more track, get closer to the white line on the outside. And I just tried to think of this corner as a complete V. It looks like a U when you look at it on a map, but if you imagine it's a U like this, and there's an apex here and an apex here, and in the middle I draw a V like this. And if you picture it more of a V, on this part of the V you're braking all the way in a straight line, and on this part you're accelerating. So now, for you, we're not really doing anything. We're just sort of coasting in there, braking a little bit. We're not really slowing down. If we were still braking upright in there, you'd be nice and tight to that curb, get the bike stopped, and then at this point, I now stand the bike up and pick it up and drive through this second part of the corner. But instead, because you've made it more of a U, we're now at the outside of the track, and we still haven't accelerated yet, and we're still on the side of the tyre, so we can't accelerate. And now we're upright by the time you're accelerating, and you can hear now the bike's labouring really low in the RPM, and you've sort of lost your speed going up this hill. You brake nice and late in here, nice and wide. Your line's really good here. The only thing there is you let yourself run out. You weren't quite tight to the apex on the inside, and then you let yourself run out too far, too early. So try to be as tight as you can to the inside, hug the inside apex as much as you can, then stand the bike up, and at that point when you stand it up, you're pointing down the track and you can accelerate harder.